Tonight, the major breaking news. The Supreme Court agrees to hear that monumental Colorado case about whether or not the state can take Donald Trump off the primary ballot. And it comes on the same day President Biden launched a blistering attack on the campaign trail. America decides just days before the first votes are cast in this year's presidential election. President Biden makes his first campaign speech of 2024 and slams his main rival.
Trump is trying to steal history the same way he tried to steal the election.
The back-to-back winter storms with 40 million Americans preparing for the first wallop. The National Weather Service warning of hazardous driving conditions.
You could get anywhere from 2 inches to 10 inches of snow.
As flu cases rise nationwide, what you should know to keep your kids safe.
Do not leave anything to chance, because you're going to live with that for the rest of your life.
Lean on me. And we go on the road with a woman who found a friend to lean on.
I'm taking you to a recording studio.
Are you serious?
And when you heard her song, what did you think?
Oh, I was blown away.
Good evening to our viewers in the West. I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us on this busy Friday night. We're following a number of developing stories tonight. We know a lot of you are worried about the weather this weekend, and we'll have the very latest on that major winter storm that is set to slam tens of millions on the East Coast with snow, ice, and heavy winds. That in a moment. But first, the breaking news about this year's presidential election. The Supreme Court revealing just a short time ago it is taking up a case that could alter the course of this year's presidential election. Late this afternoon, the nation's highest court agreed to decide whether former President Donald Trump is ineligible to be on Colorado's primary ballot because he engaged in an insurrection to overturn the 2020 election. And it's worth noting that the most visible act of that effort was the assault on the U.S. Capitol. And that happened exactly 3 years ago tomorrow. What Donald Trump did or didn't do on January 6, 2021 is not only being decided in the courts, but it will be the centerpiece of President Joe Biden's campaign to prove that Trump is a threat to democracy. We've got a lot of news to bring you tonight, and CBS's Jan Crawford is here to start us off. You follow the Supreme Court so closely. What have they done tonight?
Well, they're going to decide if he can be disqualified, and they're going to decide it quickly. Arguments on February 8th, and I'd expect a decision by the end of next month. And in the meantime, Donald Trump can stay on the ballot. Now, this is the case from Colorado, where the Colorado Supreme Court ruled that Trump committed insurrection on January 6th, and so therefore he's ineligible for office under Section 3 of the Constitution's 14th Amendment. Now, that provision was adopted after the Civil War, and it bars insurrectionists from holding federal office. Up until last month, other state courts had ruled that the provision did not apply to Trump. Colorado was the first, and since then we've seen voters in mostly Democratic states like Oregon, California, the Maine Secretary of State, all wanting to throw him off the ballot. So the court really had no choice but to take this up, and I would not be surprised if they rule, perhaps unanimously, that the Colorado Supreme Court got it wrong, that courts should not be in the business of declaring someone ineligible to run for president.
This is the first of many big things before the Supreme.
Many.
Jan Crawford, always great to have you. Thank you so much. From the courts to the campaign trail and President Biden's first campaign speech of the year. And it was his strongest rebuke yet against Donald Trump, calling the former president a loser and a threat to America's democracy. The backdrop was a deliberate choice. Valley Forge, Pennsylvania marked a turning point in the Revolutionary War, and that's where General George Washington's Continental Army overcame the odds. CBS's Ed O'Keefe is our senior political correspondent.
Kicking off the election year in battleground state Pennsylvania, President Biden directly attacked his once and potentially future foe.
America, as we begin this election year, we must be clear. Democracy is on the ballot. Your freedom is on the ballot.
The president rarely invokes Trump so directly.
Trump's assault on democracy isn't just part of his past. It's what he's promising for the future. Trump's not concerned about your future, I promise you. Trump is now promising a full-scale campaign of revenge and retribution. There's no confusion about who Trump is, what he intends to do.
The speech was meant to remind Americans of Trump's involvement in the January 6th insurrection 3 years ago Saturday.
Trump did nothing. It was among the worst derelictions of duty by a president in American history.
And it comes as the president's team believes it can try refocusing on Trump's attempts to overturn the 2020 election results as the economy turns the corner. Inflation is easing. There was another positive monthly jobs report today, and gas prices are hitting recent lows. Trump is now in Iowa, beginning a 2-day swing across the state.
By delivering a massive victory in Iowa, you'll send a thundering message to crooked Joe Biden.
But first, the former president needs to clear the GOP field. And his top opponent in Iowa, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, warned today Republicans can't afford another year of Trump.
If Trump is the nominee, the election is going to be about legal issues, criminal trials, and January 6th. Biden's record, no one's even going to be talking about that. I think it gives the Democrats a huge advantage. If I'm the nominee, it'll be focused on the issues that matter to this country.
In the coming days, Trump will be relying on friends and family to hold events for him here as he shifts focus back to courtrooms. Just today, New York's Attorney General raised her request for the fine in her civil fraud trial against Trump to $370 million. Trump plans to be at closing arguments in the case next week after also attending federal appeals court arguments in Washington over whether he should have presidential immunity in his election fraud trial. Despite his court dates, Trump is ahead by double digits in Iowa, backed by loyal supporters who dismiss his legal challenges.
The more they try to go after him, the stronger it gets.
One other advantage for Trump, he has a far more organized operation than the first time he ran in Iowa. Back then, it was all about crowd size. Now, volunteers work the rooms, trying to get the names and numbers in those in the crowd, making sure they show up in 10 nights to caucus for the former president. Nora?
We'll be there and watching at O'Keefe. Thank you so much. Well, tonight, more than 40 million people are bracing for a wintry mess of snow, ice, and rain this weekend. And there's another powerful storm right on its heels. CBS's Errol Barnett reports tonight from north of New York City.
Tonight, the first major snowstorm of the season marches east after packing a punch in the south and Midwest. Heavy snow blanketed roads in Winslow, Arkansas Thursday, leaving this driver stuck in need of help. And traffic on this bridge ground to a halt after several tractor trailers were involved in an accident, one even appearing to jackknife. In nearby Kansas, the snow and ice made driving there a challenge as well. At Wichita's airport, near whiteout conditions as crews work to clear the runways. The entire storm system is trekking northeast, where some cities await the first significant snowfall in nearly 2 years. Carl Gooch in Massachusetts is grabbing last-minute sand.
A little nervous because we haven't had, this much snow for a while.
A snow-deprived Boston, meantime, could be covered in half a foot of snow.
Our city teams are out there trying to prepare the streets, treat them before the snow comes down.
For Wayne and Dean Ryder, owners of the Thunder Ridge ski area in Paterson, New York, fresh powder over the weekend means their snow machines can get a break.
I think New York City has not had a snowstorm like this in, several years.
650 days.
Yeah.
Now consider this, ski slopes like this one are having to adapt to the changing weather. The owners tell me that they are seeing winter snow arrive later each year. And Nora, I know you hit the slopes as I do. For them, that means they have to push back the days they open for the season.
I've noticed that, Errol Barnett. Thank you so much. And for more on the forecast, let's bring in meteorologist Mike Bettis. He's with our partners from the Weather Channel. Good evening, Mike.
Nora, good evening. That's right, a blockbuster nor'easter is on the way this weekend. Across the mid-Atlantic, North Carolina and Virginia, icy weather in store for us overnight tonight, highlighted in pink there. Ice accretion up to a half an inch, very hazardous travel conditions there. And then a ton of snow from that point northbound. I-95 is tricky. South of New York, it's mostly rain. North of New York, it is mostly snow as the system begins to potentially bomb out off the coast here, meaning it's intensifying, producing very significant wind and snow in some pockets. Upwards of a foot of snow is on the way. Next storm that's coming in behind that brings significant snow to the Midwest Monday into Tuesday. Severe weather across the south. This one also really wound up, a lot of wind coming with it, but also we know significant amounts of rain and warm temperatures. Remember, we just had a lot of snow over the weekend. Now temperatures approaching 60 could mean a significant flood risk into early next week, nor including right around New York City and Newark.
Mike Bettis, thank you. Now to this breaking news, we are learning that Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is in the hospital tonight. We're told after complications following a recent elective medical procedure. The Pentagon says he is recovering well and he was expected to resume his full duties today. The 70-year-old was admitted to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center on Monday. Well, now to a major shakeup at one of the nation's most powerful lobbying groups, the NRA. Longtime leader Wayne LaPierre is stepping down from the gun rights organization after a decades-long run. CBS's Jeff Pegues reports the surprising resignation comes just days before his civil corruption trial is set to begin.
Wayne LaPierre resigned after 30 years as the head of the NRA, where he has been a fierce critic of those who would restrict access to guns.
The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
The organization cited health reasons, but in a statement today, LaPierre was as defiant as ever, saying that he's been a card-carrying member of the NRA most of my adult life, adding that his passion for our cause burns as deeply as ever. His resignation comes just days before the start of a civil trial in New York, in which State Attorney General Letitia James is accusing LaPierre and other officials of using one of the most powerful organizations in America as a personal piggy bank to fund luxury personal trips, $500,000 on 8 trips to the Bahamas, more NRA money going to safaris, luxury car services, and private jets. Also authorizing a $17 million payment to LaPierre upon his departure from the NRA. LaPierre and the NRA have denied the allegations. He never wavered in his fierce support for the right to bear arms, even as the number of mass shootings rose across the country.
His legacy will be one of corruption, one of self-dealing, one of mismanagement. But the real legacy in the end will be that the NRA opposed all gun safety laws at every turn.
Late today, New York Attorney General Letitia James called LaPierre's resignation a victory, but Nora, she also pledged to hold him accountable in a court of law.
Jeff Pegues, thank you. And in some more breaking news, at least one person is dead tonight following a crash involving a tour bus in upstate New York. The bus rolled on its side on a highway near the town of Lake George. Nearly a dozen people were injured. The cause of the crash now under investigation. Classes were canceled and grief counselors brought in today in Perry, Iowa, the day after a 6th grader was killed and 7 other people were injured in a school shooting. The 11-year-old who was killed was identified today as Amir Joliffe. The principal is among those wounded and he is credited with saving lives and he remains in critical condition. 2 students are also still in the hospital. Investigators are looking into possible motives. According to local reports, 2 former classmates say the shooter had been bullied for years. Tonight, the CDC reports that flu cases in the U.S. are surging. Take a look at this. Here is last week's map showing high or very high flu activity in 31 states. And this week, there are 38 states at that same level of infection. CBS's Janet Shamlin reports tonight from Houston.
A post-holiday punch with flu cases surging nationwide. At Houston's Texas Children's Hospital, they've got their hands full.
When should a parent take a child to the hospital? So parents need to be on the lookout for respiratory symptoms. We tell parents a lot of times, particularly in the little kids, to look and see if it looks like they're pulling in on their chest.
Estimated hospitalizations have jumped 50% nationwide since last week. Among flu deaths this season, 27 children.
Miss her.
Megan and Jesse Parks know that crushing pain.
She was so small.
Their 2-year-old daughter Kennedy had the flu last year. Her condition quickly deteriorated, and she stopped breathing as her mom rushed her to the hospital.
Did you ever think it was possible you could lose your daughter to the flu?
When she was sick on that Thursday, and they told us that she had tested positive for the flu, we were thankful. We have the flu down. Like, that's not a problem. People don't die of the flu anymore. To have those thoughts and think that, and then to have this happen less than 3 days later, and she's gone. I still can't believe it.
Go! Kennedy was up to date on her vaccines and previously had the flu shot, but not last season.
It just wasn't on the top of our list of things to do, and that's really hard to swallow. We did everything. And that's the one thing we didn't do.
The Houston couple told me they wanted to speak out about this, as painful as it was for them to do so, to encourage parents to get that flu shot. And on a happier note, the parks welcomed a baby boy in November. Nora.
Wow. Janet, I am feeling for them and appreciate them sharing that message. Thank you. Well, an enormous fire breaks out at a historic factory building. We'll have the details next.
You like that bone? I got a great price on it.
Did you see my tail when that Chewy box showed up?
Oh, I saw it.
Sorry about the vase.
Can we just say vase like normal people?
Fine.
I always wondered what it would be like to have a tail.
Maybe you did one time. Maybe 1,000 years from now, I'll be tailless, using that Chewy app to get you great prices on treats.
I'm pretty sure it takes more than 1,000 years.
Vase.
Pets aren't just pets. They're more.
Vase.
Save more on what they love with everyday great prices at Chewy.
Yo, these are the bomb!
And they're air popped, not fried.
Popcorners. You're an artist.
Actually, Jesse, it's just basic ingredients. No, we don't eat our own supply.
Mr. White!
Jesse.
Everyone's gonna want to taste. And I know just the guy to talk to. What are these? We call them popcorners.
Say their name.
Popcorners! Take! Yeah! How much of this stuff do you have? We've got 6 signature flavors, Joe. 7! You make 7! 7.
7 works.
Yeah.
Popcorners. Break into something good.
We're gonna eat a lot of snacks together.
Tonight, a former Colorado police officer has been sentenced to 14 months in jail in the death of Elijah McClain. Randy Rodema was convicted of criminally negligent homicide and assault for his role in the death of the 23-year-old black man. McClain died after he was placed in a chokehold and paramedics injected him with the sedative ketamine. Tonight, a massive fire at a warehouse is expected to burn well into the weekend in Elizabeth, New Jersey, just outside New York City. It's not known what sparked the fire inside the vacant building where Singer sewing machines were once made. Smoke could be seen for miles. A Hollywood heartthrob from the 1970s has died. We remember David Soul of Starsky and Hutch next.
Whopper, 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 Junior, Double, Triple, Whopper, Flame Grill taste with perfect toppers. I rule this day. Lettuce, mayo, pickle, ketchup, it's okay if I don't want that Impossible or bacon Whopper, any Whopper my way. You rule your season today at BK. Have it your way.
When Doug and Andre came to TurboTax,
we navigated a turbulent housing market by
buying a motorhome.
But we didn't know the first thing about filing taxes as first-time home buyers.
I knew how to make their move count. We file taxes for millions of new homeowners and guarantee 100% accuracy on land and sea.
Was that a shark?
Yes.
Make your moves count. Intuit TurboTax, 100% accuracy guaranteed.
We learned today that actor David Soul has died.
Starsky, I don't bark and believe it. Oh, boy. Here, will you tell those yo-hos who we are? A lot of good that's gonna do. Gotcha!
Well, he's best remembered for playing Hutch in the 1970s crime-fighting series Starsky and Hutch. He and co-star Paul Michael Glazer also appeared in the 2004 movie starring Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson. Well, at the height of his fame, David Soul hit the music charts with the single Don't Give Up on Us. David Soul was 80 years old. On the Road is next with a story about finding your voice even when all seems lost.
And Doug.
And Doug says you can customize and save hundreds on car insurance with Liberty Mutual. He hits his mark center stage and is crushed by a baby grand piano. Are you replacing me? With this guy?
Customize and save with Liberty Bibbity.
He doesn't even have a mustache.
Oh, look, a bee-boo.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Don't worry. It happens to the best of us.
It does?
It happens to surgeons, judges.
Overruled.
Airport ground crew, game show contestants.
Bermuda Triangle.
Megan's Reno. Bowlers. It even happened to your little cousin Timmy.
That doesn't even make sense.
That doesn't matter.
Thanks, Grandpa.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road with a story that will put a song in your heart.
In downtown Boston, hope was fading for Ara Bolster. She'd been homeless for more than 2 years after a string of unfortunate events and abusive relationships.
I had been in tears, and I remember thinking to myself, you know, God, when is the tide going to turn?
And that's when this guy walks in your life?
Yeah. Lean on me.
Ara says she'd been singing on the street, which she does on occasion, when a stranger came up to her. His name is Matt Shearer. He's a radio news reporter. Matt was out covering something else that day, but he sensed a better story in her.
Can I sit with you and chat?
Absolutely.
And that's when Ara told him about her most prized possession.
I have a song, and I wrote it here on the streets.
The lyrics were written on a piece of cardboard she'd been using as a mattress. The melody, only in her mind. But Ara felt so strongly about this song, she told Matt her only wish in life was to share it with the world. And when Matt heard that,
I thought, well, I've got connections. I know people.
And so, a few days later,
come with me.
He said, hey, I have a surprise for you. Let's go.
Here you go.
Got her in the car, and I told her where we were headed, and she was so happy.
I'm taking you to a recording studio.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No.
I'm serious.
No.
Yep.
Matt found an engineer and a producer. And what they all heard.
Oh, I was blown away. The lyrics were powerful. How love can be both toxic and intoxicating.
Ara has now uploaded her song to the online music platform Bandcamp, netting nearly $5,000 in downloads.
Look at this.
But as much as she needs that money, she says Matt matters more.
He's everything to me right now that I don't have. And he's a hero.
Finding someone who believes in you.
We should try to get you singing the national anthem at the Sox game. What do you think?
The best way to feel like a rock star. Steve Hartman, on the road in Boston.
That's a relationship to be grateful for, and that is tonight's CBS Evening News. I'm Nora O'Donnell. Good night, and I hope you have a great weekend.